Let's take a look at some of the game design of the hunts in Monster Hunter. Ahem. Video games distinguish themselves from other art forms by... Nope, you know, I thought maybe I could do a British accent this time to sound more official, and I thought wrong. Video games are interactive. They're all about the player making decisions and receiving feedback for those decisions. Not necessarily branching storylines, but literally just what the player chooses to do in the game, and the game providing feedback. When and how you choose to jump as Mario, and if you land on the enemy or take damage. It's not super complicated. It's inputs and outputs. So let's break down some of the choices and feedback the player makes in Monster Hunter. First off, the Hunter. The biggest turnoff for new players is that compared to most other video games, the attacks in Monster Hunter are slower than America Online. When it comes to player actions, most games will skip the principle of animation of anticipation. There's little to no wind up in a lot of the moves, and that's done for responsive player inputs. You press a button, they do the move. But in Monster Hunter, while some weapons are faster than others, these moves are comparably slower. Instead of glossing over the anticipation, these games lean into it. As a result, these big attacks feel powerful, and they feel satisfying when you land one, since it takes good timing, positioning, and monster knowledge for one to connect. Once newer players cross that initial hurdle, they'll be seeing greater investment but a greater return. You hit someone with a sword in Zelda, it's like, alright, but if you land a full charge great sword swing in Monster Hunter, it's like, yeah! The player has 3 resources to manage in a hunt: health, stamina, and sharpness if you're playing a melee weapon, or ammo if you're playing a ranged weapon. Health is your critical resource. If you run out of that 3 times, it's game over. But if you get hit once and don't get hit again for a while, a portion of your health will restore, thereby not punishing the player too greatly for making one mistake and even rewarding them for playing smarter after their mistake. Stamina is used for dashing, dodging, shielding, and a few techniques with certain weapons. So when you choose to use stamina to roll out of the way or shield from a monster's attack, the player is essentially trading some of their recharging resource for their critical resource. Stamina recharges pretty quickly, but the maximum stamina will decrease over time the more they use it, so the player has to decide when to restore it by eating a steak. Weapon sharpness depletes over time, which lowers attack power, and the player will have to stop attacking and use a whetstone to restore their sharpness. Sharpness will deplete faster if you're attacking a particularly tough part of a monster's hide, so the player will have to choose where to hit certain monsters. Don't hit the claws, hit the cooch! For ranged weapons, you have unlimited normal level 1 bullets that do pee poo poo damage, but you have limited amounts of other bullets that have different effects, so players will have to choose between different guns for compatibility, since not every bowgun can use every type of bullet, how many bullets to bring, what type of bullet to use when during the hunt, and when is a good time to reload after each round. These are all deliberate decisions the players have to make, because these are deliberate games. You don't just do whatever, you have to think about it and time things correctly. Actions as simple as healing aren't just pause the game and eat a meal. And not that there's anything wrong with those systems, Monster Hunter is just built different. You have to stop attacking, sheath your weapon, scroll through your items, then you can drink a potion. And in the older games you do a flexing animation at the end, and in the newer games you slowly drink the drink. Newer players might think, what are you doing? Hurry up and heal! But over time we realize that these are intentional design decisions made so that the player has to think about, when should I sharpen, when should I reload, when should I eat a steak, when should I heal. How strong of armor the player uses, whether they realize it or not, is the player setting their own difficulty level. While it's technically possible to beat the game without upgrading your armor at all, it would be ridiculously difficult to do so. The Magna Malo fight in the Monster Hunter Rise demo is proof of that. Stronger weapons means faster hunts, as you're depleting the monster's health at a faster rate, which lowers your chances of the monster depleting your health first. There are no undodgeable attacks in this game, and you do have the guaranteed dodge move of the Superman dive, but to do it you have to sheath your weapon, go into a full sprint, and then time your dive correctly. So in order to successfully do so, you have to know the monster's attacks pretty well. Which brings me to, secondly, the monsters. The monsters of Monster Hunter are designed in a way that blends real-world physics and video game logic. The monsters move in such a way that if these characters exist in a real world, they would probably move like this, as many of their movements are designed to emulate real-world animals. Through their emotions, players can feel the weight of their size and scale relative to the hunters. And just like the hunter's attacks, the monster's attacks lean into the anticipation. Not only is this a clear way to demonstrate the destructive power behind each move, this also serves as a clue to the player of what attack they're about to use. With enough knowledge of the monster, the player can predict what the monster is about to do and plan accordingly. Rathalos just spun his tail around. I bet he's about to spin around again. Glavenus is charging up his tail in his mouth. That means he's about to do his big Beyblade tailspin move at me, so I better get out of the way. Nizitsune just shot 1 bubble and then 3 bubbles. That means he's about to jump forwards and do his big bubble bath move, so I better not stand where he usually lands. While all of these are boss fights, there are no visible health bars on the monster. This is done to A, enhance the tension of the fight since you don't know how much health the monster has left. These aren't like boss fights in other games where you repeat a process 3 times and win. Instead, you can choose to attack the monster whenever you want. And B, so that the player has to study the monster's organic actions to tell what state it's in. If a monster roars and is enraged, it's probably going to do a lot of attacks. If it's tired, that means I have time to score some more hits than I usually would. If it's limping away, that means it's low on health and I'll either be able to finish it off or capture it. While everyone's taste varies, to me, these fights have the perfect difficulty. They're challenging, but never frustrating. If you die, you don't want to give up. You want to jump back in and try again. That's because you own your own failures. It's never, I got killed in 1 hit by some undodgeable BS. Instead, it's, oh, I should have seen that attack coming and used my shield. Or, oh, I chose to drink a potion instead of dodging and it got me. Each game gradually increases the difficulty by having the monster attacks gradually get stronger, throwing different status effects at you, and having smaller windows of time between attacks. That being said, there's always tells before attacks. You're never required to have split-second reaction time to do well, which is great, because I am getting older and my reaction time is definitely slowing down. The grind. You fight a monster for the first time, you go to craft its armor and boom! You don't have enough materials to make a single piece yet. You might have to fight the same monster 4, 5, maybe even 20 times to get all the pieces you need. This is because making a monster's full set means you're a master of fighting that monster. If I'm wearing my G-rank Glavenus armor to the next G-rank Glavenus fight, it's not just because of the elemental resistances I get, it's because I don't lose against Glavenus. Except for that one time. Fortunately, it doesn't get too repetitive since there are usually multiple quests available in different locales to fight the same monster, and you'll need to break different body parts to collect all the materials you need. So one time you might focus on breaking the back, another time it might be chopping off the tail. While better armor and weapons increases your offenses and defenses, your hunter doesn't level up in the game. Instead, you do. You get better at the game. You learn the monster's body language. You learn the weapon combos. You make the armor. It's all about player agency. Sometimes you'll need some parts from other monsters to upgrade your stuff. To me, this makes it so that I'm always willing to jump into any random quest when playing with people online, since I'll never know what I'll eventually need. Plus, the grind to get armor is fun. You're not just sitting on the couch hitting A bunch of times, you're fighting in high intensity action games where you hit big monsters with big weapons. Gameplay intensity curve. The hunting gameplay loop is designed in such a way to keep the player engaged, but not to overwhelm them. You start in the cozy villages or the refreshing hunting hubs, and this is where you make choices to prepare for the hunt. What armor do I wear? Should I go for raw defense, elemental resistances, or good skills? What weapon should I choose? Should I go for raw attack power, best sharpness, elemental weaknesses, status effects? What items should I bring? I have limited slots, so I need to choose carefully. Should I bring more healing items? Should I bring more utility items like traps and bombs? Should I bring items to combine in the field in case I run low? Should I leave extra room for items I gather in the field? What strategy should we try during the hunt? Should we try putting the monster in traps to hit it a bunch? Should we try blinding it? Should we try to put it to sleep and then bomb it? And what food buffs and skills should I pick when I eat before the hunt to help me achieve these goals? Every decision is a trade-off, and there's never a straightforward right or wrong answer. These decisions keep the player mentally engaged, but it's done from a place of safety so they're easy to physically implement. At the start of the actual hunt, the player has to find the monster. This search gradually builds the tension until you finally find them. Sometimes in higher level quests, your squad will start out at random points on the map, and maybe even spawn right in front of the monster. This will immediately ramp up the tension since A, you were surprised, and B, you have to choose whether to fight the monster alone until the rest of your team arrives. Hunts have rounds, almost like boxing. After some time, a monster will choose to leave, and this will be the player's chance to regroup and reset, easing the tension. However, you can't wait for too long because a monster will eat food and start to heal too, keeping some of the tension still there. The player has a chance to heal and eat and sharpen and buff up, but can't wait too long since the monster is regenerating too. When you beat a difficult quest, or even an easier quest, and all the tension releases and the song and the major key plays, it's a feeling of, we did it! Not a feeling of, glad that's over. That's because the hunts are fair and the players feel validated for their decisions. The weapons and armor and skill they chose, the items they brought, the tactics they implemented, the attacks they used, and the attacks they chose not to use, they're all verified to have been good decisions when they are victorious at the end. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to cautiously and carefully slam your greatsword into that subscribe button for more Monster Hunter and more videos about video games. This was a bit of a different style of video than I usually make, so I hope y'all still enjoyed it. I'm real passionate about game design even though I'm not British. And that's it, video's over.